We often treat fear as a necessary ingredient for success. In millions of households, the threat of punishment or the crushing weight of scoring top marks is seen as the only reliable way to build a child's discipline. Look at this environment. Thousands of students sitting at rows of wooden desks, silently navigating a high-stakes standardized test. This is the factory floor of our education system, designed to enforce strict compliance. This chart reflects a system in crisis, one where 6.57 million children have dropped out in just the last 5 years. While economic hardship and a lack of infrastructure often pull kids away from the classroom, the internal atmosphere of the school itself plays a decisive role. In rural India, 64% of students live with the constant fear of having to leave school. For these children, the pressure to perform isn't just an academic hurdle, it's a psychological weight that makes an already difficult path feel impossible. When a student loses focus or quits, we often blame their lack of willpower. But when you combine systemic economic struggle with a culture of academic humiliation, you create the conditions for a physical breakdown of the brain's architecture. The moment a child is scolded or emotionally pressured for their grades, a specific biological reaction begins inside their head. The brain enters a survival state that diminishes the activity of the prefrontal cortex, the exact region responsible for the logical thinking and creativity needed to actually solve a problem. Instead, the amygdala takes over. The child is pushed into a reactive state where they stop learning out of curiosity and start performing solely to avoid the next threat, whether that's a teacher's lecture or a parent's disappointment. Maintaining this state of high alert is chemically expensive. The body responds by releasing high levels of the stress hormone cortisol into the child's system. When cortisol levels remain high for too long, they become toxic to the brain's developing cells. This chemical flood physically prevents new connections from forming, making it harder for the child to grasp and hold on to new concepts. Science shows that this chronic stress causes the hippocampus, the brain's central hub for learning and memory, to actually contract. This is why rote learning is so common. A child can force facts into their head for an exam. Because the brain is in a trauma-induced state of survival, it discards those memories as soon as the immediate threat of the test is over. Assigning 3 to 4 hours of daily homework pushes a child's brain past its natural cognitive load limit. At this point, the brain stops processing data and begins simply mirroring it. Without physical play or art, the brain fails to release dopamine, the chemical that fuels motivation. Without it, the act of learning becomes a heavy biological burden rather than a reward. The physical toll is just as visible. Hours spent hunched over books lead to spinal misalignment and restricted blood flow to the brain, contributing to chronic fatigue and headaches. This constant environment of impossible expectations can lead to a psychological state called learned helplessness. The brain's circuitry effectively wires itself to believe that effort is futile because no matter how hard they work, they cannot meet the criteria for success. Over years, this biological wiring can translate into specific adult traits. When a child learns that their value is tied only to external validation and following orders to avoid pain, they may grow into an adult who excels at meeting deadlines, but struggles to take the risks required for true innovation. Fear-based systems can produce discipline, but it is often a hollow form of compliance. It creates good workers who follow rules out of habit, but lack the inner character to lead or think independently. Successful global models offer a different path. Finland, for example, consistently ranks as both one of the top education systems and the happiest country in the world. They achieve these results by moving away from high-stakes testing and massive homework loads, focusing instead on continuous support and the well-being of the student. This aligns with Dr. B.R. Ambedkar's vision that education must provide dignity. For a student to truly learn, they must feel like a participant in their education, not a subject to be humiliated by it. Mahatma Gandhi's concept of Bunyadi Shiksha further emphasized this, prioritizing the harmony of the hands, heart, and head over the mechanical memorization of facts. When you remove fear from a classroom, you see an immediate psychological shift. Children who feel safe are empowered to ask questions freely, which is the foundational spark of all scientific inquiry. We see the neurochemical reward of this shift in physical movement and play. This is where a child develops the resilience and emotional intelligence that no textbook can provide. True discipline is built on a foundation of self-worth and genuine curiosity. If we want to raise a generation of innovators rather than obedient machines, we have to break the cycle of fear and create classrooms where kids can learn to think for themselves.